Welcome to the Disciples of the Watch podcast with your hosts, Gene Vogel and Nate Matnich.
Welcome, metal brothers and sisters, and thank you for joining the Disciples of the Watch. I hope you're ready for another album deep dive.
In this episode, we're going to go track by track on Soulfly's newest release, 2025's Chama. I'm Nate Matnich.
And I'm Gene Vogel. Thank you for joining us. So Nate, this is one that's not that old when it came out in October. And both of us enjoyed it quite a bit. It made your top 10. It almost made my top 10. So I'll be curious to see, I guess I'm curious to see on your end. Don't tell me now. We'll kind of discover that as we go. If it grew stronger for you or if it was like, you kind of hit its peak when you picked for your top 10. And of course, I'll reciprocate with my notes and comments. So I'm curious to see how that all works out for both of us. But Soulfly still going strong after all these years, and Mac's still going strong after all these years. He's got a lot of gray showing lately, but hey, that's a good thing. Getting older is a good thing. It's better than the alternative.
Yeah. Better than the alternative. That's for sure. Yeah, Max is still really doing some heavy stuff, man, all these years. Oh yeah,
definitely. He's got his hand in so many different projects as well. With him and his brother, and now he's got all his family involved in this band, and his kids are doing bands. It's just crazy.
Yeah, he's got a couple of his kids involved in this album. Zion on drums and Igor Amadeus Cavalera on bass for one song. No, 3 songs. I'm assuming that's his son, right? That's not his brother Igor.
No, that's his son. Yeah, he named his son after Igor.
Yeah, there's some guests on here too, which is reminiscent of the first Soulfly.
Yeah.
And there's other things too that are reminiscent.
And actually the funny thing is I kind of forgot about that until we got to one of the tracks, or until I got to one of the tracks. And I was like, oh, this is, and then I went and looked it up. I'm like, yep, I figured it out. But I don't want to spoil anything before we get into it. Anything you want to cover before we start our track by track? I suppose we should get onto the details.
Yeah. Chama is the 13th studio album by American heavy metal band Soulfly. It was released in October the 24th, 2025 via Nuclear Blast Records. Vocalist, rhythm guitarist, founder, and band leader Max Cavalera described the album as a fast, heavy, spiritual, and raw revival of the band's tribal groove metal sound. Those are not the words that I would have chosen for it, but I think it fits it. But he created it, so better him, I guess, to describe it. The band is Max Cavalera on vocals, rhythm guitar, and bass, except for the tracks where Igor plays on. Mike DeLeon, lead guitar, former Insight with frontman Richie Cavalera, best known as the stepson of Max Cavalera. And then Zion Cavalera on drums. So guests are Igor, which we already mentioned, Dino Cazares, Gabriel Franco, Ben Cook, Todd Jones, and Michael Ammett. This album was produced by Zion Cavalera, which I thought was interesting. He's got the boy doing the production now, along with Rick Risk and John Aquilino. All right, then. That's it, man. That's the people who made the magic happen.
Well, we got 10 tracks, Nate. We got an intro track, and then we got nine to follow. So I guess I'll kick it off with that. So we do have that intro, like I mentioned. So it's going to be a good one, raging when the band takes the stage. It's one of those kind of ones, and it fits the album pretty well. It fits Max pretty well, I feel. Not a big one for me. I dig it, but it's you're getting 9 songs for the price of 10, in my mind. I'd rather it be part of the first song, like Indigenous Inquisition / Storm the Gates, instead of just its own separate track. I know a lot of bands are doing that nowadays, and it pads your count of how many songs you have. But it might be all the independent bands that I listen to that I've become sour on it, because it's like I'll hit an album and I'm almost I wish I should keep track of it, like a little tick marks when I do skip that first track and when I don't skip it. Because there's so many times I have to skip that first track because it's just nothing but sound effects and stuff to get me to the actual songs. So I think I've become soured to fucking starting tracks or intro songs and shit like that. I'd rather they be part of it. You know, like when Overkill did Coma, you know, you got that really cool fucking acoustic piece and then they get into the fucking riff and then wasn't something separately named and then Cobra and then Coma being the second track. It was all part of the first track. Battery, same thing. You know, you got that cool acoustical piece and then it gets into Battery, you know, so it's just annoying for me, I guess. I've become desensitized to it.
It goes back though into the 80s.
I know, but it seems like it's more prevalent nowadays. I gave that 2.5 out of 5.
Holy buckets.
I don't need to hear it a whole lot. I would be more inclined to go edit the file on my computer and put these two songs together than listen to that independently.
So there's like these spoken words in the beginning. I don't know if I think they're going in reverse. I listened to it a couple of times actually just before we recorded to see if I could figure it out. But anyways,
you just spin your record backwards?
No, I don't even know. Could you do that with that? Maybe my one in the basement I could.
I was going to say, yeah, if you have to like turn it on or something, I forget how that all works. Mine's automatic. You pick it up and start sliding it over towards and it'll automatically fire up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the lyric sleeve, there's a list of 21 tribes. And there's a note that says, these are all extinct tribes and indigenous lifestyles that are no longer alive today. We honor their ancestors' rest in power. And I think that spoken piece that's going in reverse is him saying the 21 tribes.
Ah.
I thought it was interesting because one of the tribes on there is Ojibwe. And I believe, you know, in northern Minnesota that there are Ojibways there. So maybe, I don't know what that means exactly. But anyways, there's 21 tribes listed. I think it's really heavy. It just kicks off really heavy. It's bombastic and heavy. It has the tribal rhythm, and right away, you know, it's like, yep, this is Soulfly. There's also a little bit of a spiritual, atmospheric type of vibe going on. And Chama means flame and calling in Portuguese. And I don't know what those two things have to do for each other, but I just wanted to mention that's what the that's what the meaning of the word is. There's a lot of building, you know, it builds up. There's some tribal drumming, and then you know, it just kicks off into the next song. I think it's a really kick-ass intro. So yeah, I gave it a 4.
Yeah, I do like the tribal element. I'll bump mine up to a 3. You talked me into it.
All right. Nice. All right, the next song, it rolls right into Storm the Gates. Oh, yeah, let me just mention that this whole album is only 32 minutes and 27 seconds long. So, you know, it's 10 tracks, you know, like you said, Gene, it's really 9 tracks. And it just gets in. The album fucking fires up and it gets right down to business, you know. There's no fucking around. There's a little bit of snare drum in the beginning of this song, Storm the Gates, that almost sounded like a Saint Anger snare. And I'm like, oh, shit, they're not going to do that, are they? And it was just at the beginning, so it didn't carry on. It was just for a couple of bars. But I was like, what the fuck?
Was Max at the Metallica garage sale or something?
Yeah, I don't know. He's like, call Lars and ask for that fucking snare. Yeah. The intro track actually had a couple of those too. I think they used that same drum on a couple moments of that track. But anyways, it's only for a brief moment. Very heavy riffing. And it reminds me of the first album, as I've already said, but it's not quite as unhinged. You know, the self-titled one, it was pretty fucking wild sounding. I mean, it just really sounded unhinged in a lot of ways. This is a lot more contained, but it's just as heavy. The lyrics, I think, are appropriate for today. We've got the tribe, and that's all we need. Fight the power, fight the greed. And there's a killer breakdown at the end that is really punishing. I gave this track a 4.
Yeah, Storm the Gates. Yeah, and that's something, you talked about the length of the album, and that's one thing I do appreciate, that Max isn't overstaying the welcome on these songs. He's keeping them just super crisp, nice and tight. And I know I have some notes on that towards the end of my wrap up, so I won't go too deep into that. I like the groove on this one. Definitely feels like a blend of the old and the new Soulfly, and even a little bit of that later Max era Sepultura is present in this song. So it's almost like he's kind of, and it's probably not even him thinking about it. It's just, that's how he is, pulling like some of that stuff. Cause there's a few pieces that I'm like, God, that almost looks like, or feels like something that could have been like, if Sepultura had one more album with Max before he split, this song could have been part of that, or this riff or whatever it was. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I just remember hearing it going, hey, I'm sensing some of that. And this one is one of those that actually grew on me from the time it came out until I went to actually sit down and do my notes. This one, Storm the Gates, I gave a 3.5 out of 5. Up next is Nihilist. Nate, I don't have a whole lot of notes on Nihilist, other than you had mentioned there's a guest vocalist on that one.
Yeah. It guests Todd Jones.
Yes, with Todd Jones. Thank you. So yeah, just said it's a brutal riffing song, more reminiscent of his more recent works with Soulfly, even with Cavalier Conspiracy there. Nihilist, nice and short and sweet, 246. I gave it a 3 out of 5.
This song in the lyric sheet is dedicated to L.G. Petrov of Entombed. And the song features a little bit of that Stockholm Buzz guitar tone. So a little homage to Entombed there, and Swedish death metal in general, which is interesting because I am currently reading a book about Swedish death metal. So anyways, there's a nice sludgy doom type outro on this song, and Todd Jones adds like a hardcore vibe to the vocals. So you've got, Max doing his thing, but then you got Todd brings a little bit more of like a hardcore vibe, I'd say. There's a heavy stomping riffs in this song. And there's this really good lyric. Try to manipulate me, but I don't believe in anything, which I just think is great because it's absolutely true. You can't really manipulate somebody who doesn't really buy into anything. So I appreciate that lyric. I think Max is like one of the greatest riff masters in metal. I would probably say he's in my top 5 without actually doing a ranking, but I would bet that he's in the top 5 of riff masters for metal.
Ooh, that's a tough one. There's a lot of good ones out there.
Man, it's like Iommi, with just his riffing. Max is like that, I think, in the extreme metal scene. I gave this a 4. Sorry. Forgot to give my little bit of a trend here, you notice, with the 4s for me.
Yes, I do. Well, at track number 4, speaking of 4,
is No Pain, No Power. This has a little bit more of like social conscious type lyrics. There's some modern elements, and when I say modern, it's like what you'd hear on metal radio today. There's some of those type of elements. Kind of like the first album had some, I guess, new metal elements, though. Maybe that's, people argue against that, but yeah, I just think this is like the track you'd hear on the metal station. There's another killer breakdown, and I think this album is just full of killer breakdowns. I think it's part of my favorite, it's a piece of what I love about the album so much, is every track pretty much has one, and it's really fucking heavy. It's kind of got a spacey ending. There are some guests on this track, which are Dino Cazares from Fear Factory, Ben Cook of No Warning, and Gabe Franco from Unto Others. And the melodic style vocals on this track are from Ben and Gabe. So I gave this one a 3. This one is just, like I said, it's the radio song. The radio song. Has Max ever written a radio song? I guess today is the day. I guess. I thought maybe you'd have been into this one a little bit more with, or you haven't even gotten into talking about it yet. So disregard that. I have not. So yeah, this is we're getting into 4-minute territory on this one. This is a minute longer than most. But this one, yeah, this is the one I was listening to it and I'm like, this has got Fear Factory vibe written all over it. And then I was like,
checking the notes. It's like, oh, that's right. I forgot Dino was involved in this. So yeah, there it is. But yeah, so that was my notes. It's got a Fear Factory vibe, but has the addition of the tribal elements in it, of course. And then, of course, I mentioned Dino being involved, which I wasn't expecting. I just kind of was taking notes as I was listening to them. And then if I needed to, kind of digging into researching and whatnot. But and then I realized that we had Gabrielle Franco and Ben Cook in there. And it's funny you do mention that it's got the radio vibe to it, because towards the end of the song, my comments are that it's got some nu metal vibes going on it. And that's, I'd say, in the last 30 seconds or something like that. I forget even where the mark was. Maybe I should have tagged that, but last 20 or 30 seconds, I just feel like, oh, there's a little bit of a throwback to the late 90s, early 2000s type of vibe of what was going on. And I dig it. I gave it a 3.5 out of 4, or 5. I mean,
yeah, that was the modern elements I think I was thinking of as well towards the end there.
Coming in at number 5, short and sweet at 155 is Gehenna. So out of the gate, I'd see this one to me feels like this is something that was probably written for Cavalera Conspiracy, or could have been written for Cavalera Conspiracy. But I know Max has done songs similar to this for Soulfly in the past. So we're getting that broad scope of what Soulfly has been throughout the years without, trying to incorporate it into every fucking song. Like, well, the first 30 seconds are going to be from the first album, and then we're going to jump ahead to the next 30 seconds being from the fourth album, and then we're going to jump ahead. It's not broken like that. It's just every once in a while there's reminiscent pieces for me. The funny thing is, you mentioned his comments regarding this album, and I know there was some comments as it was coming out and maybe as it came out. And when he was talking about drawing on some of those earlier works, I was hoping to be a little bit more focused on the first 2 or 3 albums. But, he's got a lot going on with in his world. So be it. It's his band, it's his decision, it's his vision, I should say, not decision. Of course, it's his decision. Who the fuck am I? 3.5 out of 5. I'm sorry, 3 out of 5 is what I have for Gehenna.
I think, I guess I mostly just think about the first album and then with elements of what he's doing now with Soulfly in the last handful of albums. But anyways, this track it's very much got like the punk vibe going lyrically, drum, the opening drums, the aggression. It's all very punk. There's a lot of industrial vibes going on in this track as well. It features Michael Amott of Arch Enemy on this track. And there is this melodic lead in this song that is in contrast to the industrial sound, but somehow it works. It makes it really cool. And I gave this a 4.
Yeah, that's one thing I did want to put my notes, and I'd realized I had not, is I did like the lead on this one as well. And I didn't even look at the notes. I figured there was somebody involved because I'm like, this is different. So if this is the one that I'm thinking of, then definitely I dug that.
All right, number 6, Black Hole Scum. Another song with a killer breakdown, in case you were wondering. There's this spacey lead that goes over the heavy riffing. There's a number of those type of moments on this album, which I think are really cool. There's this lyric, like, now I have to make you suffer, and it's just it's really fucking aggressive. It's super cool sounding. The track didn't grab me like at the beginning of it, but as I was like listening to it more and getting into it, I'm like, by the end of it, I was in love with this song. There's just massively heavy riffs on this track and some like real anger and potentially even just a little bit of like early black metal vocal style going on. I gave this a 4, which so far every track has been a 4 except for one. No Paint, No Power. I had a 3.
Yeah, the one I rated higher than you.
Yeah, because it's radio friendly.
Scum. Yeah.
Just kidding.
All right, Black Hole Scum. So yeah, here we go. 4.5 minutes. Holy buckets. That's like forever in Max's world here of what he's been written.
This is the longest track on the album.
Yeah, and this one here, I like that he's throwing in a slower track after that hard hitter with Gehenna. There's a lot more breathing room on this compared to the others that we've heard. as well. So it kind of stands out in that fashion as well, which is nice. I like it. That's one thing, I mentioned going through and digging through so much independent music is like, sometimes what I can do is I can load up a song and I can click like at a minute 30 and listen to it. And I can click to the next song on my keyboard and then click on my mouse with the minute 30. And it's like almost like fucking cookie cutter. It's like same riff or similar riff, or here's where the chorus is, or it becomes monotonous. It's like, do you guys ever think outside of the cookie cutter system that you're using? Because it's like the music becomes boring, especially if the intros are all the same. If it's a 4 count and the singer's going to make some sort of snarly noise, it just becomes monotonous. So I like it when bands fucking actually, do it at least one time. If you're going to have a 10-song album, at least make one song that doesn't sound like the other fucking 9. Of course, Max doesn't do that here. I'm not trying to draw a parallel to other experiences. I'm just kind of using it as an example. However, back to Black Hole Scum. So there, yeah, I do dig that it is kind of that light in the shade, or that break apart from what was going on in Gehenna. And of course, then Max, he snags another title that's a twist on a title from another band's releases. So we got Black Hole Scum instead of Black Hole Sun from Soundgarden. And he's done that in the past. So that was, just as soon as I saw the track listing before the album came out, or when it came out, I was like, oh, there he goes again.
Yep.
The Black Hole Scum, I gave a 3 out of 5. Coming in at number 7, we have Favela Dystopia. This one comes in at 318. Now, here we come back with another raging thrasher. The lead breakdown is sweet in that first third of the song. And then, of course, it adds, here I'm using that term, light and shade to the track. I borrowed that from Jimmy Page. So I'm not trying to steal that. And I'm sure he heard it in art school, but you get the idea. It gets even thicker and chunkier at the end of the song. And I think this is my favorite on the album. And I did look up what favela means, because I know I've heard it before. It's a Brazilian shack or shanty town, a slum. So there you go. 4 out of 5 for Favela Dystopia.
Yeah. All right. I think this is a total Slayer homage song, especially like there's this lyric that's neglected, addicted, a life of hard times. Just right before that, especially, there's just like, it's fucking Slayer. I was like, wow, that's awesome. Lyrically, this was a collaboration between Max and Igor, his son. There is a breakdown with the slow, chunky riff, as you would expect at this point in the album. This has been in like pretty much every song. Max, he just chunks out those riffs, man. They just sound fucking awesome. So, yeah, I don't know. I gave it a 4. It's just Slayer has a lot of that punk vibe too early on, especially. This had that. It's not as much on the low heavy end as it is. It's like more up, a little bit more, I don't know, up tempo, I guess. I think this was a Slayer homage. I'd like to be able to ask him maybe one day.
Well, they're touring.
Hey man, when you wrote this song, anyways, I gave it a 4. I don't know if I said
you did. They've used Slayer type of riffing in the past too. Early Sepultura.
Yeah. And it is, the song is about life in the slums. I forgot to mention that, as you would imagine by the song title.
Yes.
All right, number 8, always was, always will be. There is a note on the lyric sheet that I will share with you all, and it says, inspired by the First Nations, indigenous people that have occupied and cared for the land for over 65,000 years, Chama. This is a much mellower opening, and I was really zoned out, actually. And I kind of caught myself zoning out to the beginning of it, because it's just kind of, it's not, it just doesn't just come in and start hitting hard, you know what I mean? It's got a little bit more of like a slow burn going on. Great song. The ending fades into the next instrumental track, which I think is really cool. There's no hard ending. It just fades into it. This song has some pretty heavy spiritual vibes, which I think continues on into the next track. I gave this one a 4 as well.
This song here, Always Was, Always Will Be, is a curiosity to me. It feels almost like a mishmash of different song thoughts that were put together, but it does work. It's not disjointed. The only structure, of course, is during the verse sections. I'm not sure how much I'd return to this, but it definitely grew on me as I was from the first listen through listening to it for the purposes of doing the track by track. And it did definitely grow on me. And to the point where I'm starting to dig it, I gave it a 3 out of 4. Sorry, 3 out of 5. The fuck is wrong with my notes here?
For me, there's no skip tracks on this whole thing. And it's so short.
Well, spoiler alert.
Every time I listen to it, it's like, wow, we're almost at the end here at this point. I think we know what the trend is.
You never know. Chama might be the trend killer.
The next 2 songs, I only ranked 1. No.
Well, coming at number 9, speaking of the next song, and the one you mentioned that bleeds into from Always Was, Always Will Be, and is Soulfly 13. So when I first heard this, Nate, I know we brought it up when we were going through our top 10 for 2025, that I was a little bit disappointed in it. It wasn't bad, but it didn't grab me like some of those Soulfly songs do. And they're not always home runs, don't get me wrong, but I was hoping for more than what I got when I first heard it. However, this song has definitely grown on me since that first listen. And it definitely has risen up the ranks on the Soulfly song titled tracks, to where I don't know where I'd put it. Maybe my top 5 at this point. I'd have to compare them again. I just know there's like 3 of them that are like you must listens for me, and I really enjoy them. And I really like Max being willing to and doing it, where he's flexing his musical muscle and he's doing something that's completely outside of the box of what you would expect from a band like this. But Max has done it since the beginning. And I know there are some people that don't care for these songs. I've seen some reviews and they're like, yeah, it's an 8-track album or a 9-track album because that doesn't count. I don't like that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, to each his own. I'm not going to disparage somebody for not liking it. But however, for me, it is one of the things that I look forward to. It's almost like a testament ballad. It's like, what are they going to hit us with next? And it definitely grew with every repeated listen. It was like, it would have started like at a 2.5 that first time. And then it went to a 3. And now it's at 3.5. And that's actually what I gave it. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I'm almost kind of bummed that it bleeds in from the previous one, just because, like if I'm going to ever I actually have some of those on a mellow playlist. So I don't remember how that fades in. If it's a gradual enough piece, I could always recut it and fade it in if I need to, but I know it's minor complaint. First world problems. I understand, Nate, but yeah, Soulfly 13, 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, this one didn't grab me as much early. Not that I disliked the track at all, but I wasn't listening to it like with focused intent before either. I was like working out or doing something while I was listening to the album. So while I was taking notes, obviously I was listening intently, and I got a little bit stoned, and that kind of opened up my head space a little bit. And what I got from this song is that it feels like it's hard to put words to it. Like if you were hearing spirits playing music in the distance a little bit. That's how it sounds to me, or that's what the visual I get is. And so it's got this real like otherworldly, like spiritual quality to it. And once I heard that aspect of it, now I hear it differently and really appreciate it. And just sticking with my rankings, I've given this one a 4.
This is my shock face if you haven't seen this before.
Yeah. That brings us to track number 10, and that is Chama. I don't have a ton of notes on this one. The vocals have this like cavernous sound. I kept picturing Max like, singing this inside of like a pyramid or something, the inside of a pyramid or something. It has just like that type of an echo on his vocals. It's a really strong ending song. And yeah, I gave it a 4, man. I don't have much more to say about this one.
I got a little bit more. So we got track 10 on the official listings, 409 on the play. I did look this up too when you looking up what Chama was and means of flame in Portuguese, But in Brazilian slang, it also means let's go or come on, or it'll serve as a casual greeting like bro or dude, which I found interesting. Now, obviously, Max isn't using those slang usages of it. You know, there's flames on the cover. It's representing the flame, is a Chama. So obviously that was his intent. But I just got curious. I thought I'd look that up and see if there was what exactly it meant. And, you know, of course, the Portuguese meaning of it definitely made it stand out. I know there's something else. I think it means like in Swahili, it's like party or something like that, which of course that wasn't his intent either. He wasn't writing an 80s album talking about doing cocaine or anything like that. So this one here, I felt that, you know, it's funny you mentioned you liked that. And with this one, I would have almost this been earlier in the album, or maybe you could keep it after Soulfly and then throw Gehenna at the end of the album. Just something to kind of really just hit you with a fucking hammer going out. But I know there's times where it's like, oh, an album is cool when it ends on a, you know, different or mellower track or something like that. It just feels like coming right after the previous two songs. It's like you kind of get hit with a 1, 2, 3 of kind of mellower, roughly, especially with Soulfly, of course. But I don't know, just I felt like it would have been better suited to be in deeper or putting a different song towards the end. But of course, back to the song itself, I guess that is all my notes on it. It's just the placement of it. In the end of that, it says the only note I have on there, it's not a bad song though. Wow. There's not a whole lot there. I apologize on that. 3 out of 5 though is my ranking for Chama.
Yeah, I had a different opinion about the placement of this track, which I think is perfectly placed at the end because, you know, you've got a heavy record and then there are a couple tracks that are on the softer side, have a little bit more spiritual focus maybe. And then Chama also has spiritual focus to it, but it's a hard hitter and it kind of like recaps the album, if you will. But I think just the spiritual nature of the song Chama puts it in the right place with what's preceded it. But
yeah, I could see that argument too. Almost like, you know, a band will do one side of a CD or a cassette. CD. You don't flip CDs over. Jesus Christ. I am firing all cylinders today. Like if one side of the cassette will be like just bangers and then you'll flip to the other side and it's got a different vibe to it. You know, so I could see that kind of a thing here where it's like songs 1 through 8 or 1 through 7 are going to be this way. And then we're going to kind of shift gears for 8, 9, and 10. So yeah, probably the next time I listen to it with that kind of mindset, maybe I'd be like, oh yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. We shall see.
My overall ranking is 4 for this album.
My overall ranking is 3.5. So we're pretty damn close on that. That's nice. Here are my comments on this album, and then I'll turn it over to you, Nate. This album for me, it feels like it's got no skippers. I do like that. It's always nice when you could throw down $15, $30, whatever it is for a fucking CD nowadays, or $40 to $70 for a vinyl, and enjoy it from beginning to end and not have to go, God, if that one song wasn't there, and there's sometimes where you just got to pick up the needle or you got to hit that next button. And this doesn't have that, so I appreciate that. And you'll notice, like we mentioned a lot, the songs are not overly long. A couple near that 2 3/4 mark. The shortest at 1:55 with Gehenna, and the longest that you mentioned, Nate, Black Hole Scum at 4.5. And again, I'll just say it. I am very stoked that Max is still so prolific after all these years and all these different bands that he works with, and continuing success along the way. This was also a very nice exercise because, you know, we didn't have a whole lot of time with this album before the end of the year. It almost made my top 10. I would say it was in my top 15. And now going through it and living with it a little bit more and revisiting it a couple more times and then actually putting notes down to it, I would say it's close. I'm not sure if I'd put it in my top 10, but it would have definitely locked in that 11 spot for me. And I'll be curious to see with repeated listens. I do need to buy this one though, if I'm not mistaken. Shoot, I don't remember if I bought it or not on CD. For me, this was a CD purchase.
Yep, I have the vinyl. I bought it shortly after it came out or the day it came out. I can't remember, but man, I like this one immediately. I was excited about this one. So this didn't really grow on me as an album. I loved it immediately, and it's pretty much held that I was curious how I would feel about it because I hadn't listened to it for a little bit. Put it on for the notes, and I was like, yep, it's still fucking awesome. I'd like to see where this would fit in like my ranking of Soulfly albums, which we've talked about doing, but we haven't done yet. But it's probably on the horizon at some point. But I'm curious. I'm sure this will be, in the front end somewhere.
I would think so as well for me. Now that you got me thinking about it, just off the top of my head, I would say this definitely is in that top 5 range.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
And maybe even top 3.
So there's no fat on this album. All the tracks are just to the point. And I really like this trend of, Soulfly's been doing it, but other bands have been doing it too, where it's just like 8 to 10 tracks. And just get in there, put out a really good album, and get out.
Yep, do it old school.
Have it full of a bunch of shit. I really appreciate it, and it just shows in the quality of records. Since bands have kind of cut back on that a little bit.
Actually, Nate, I want to pause you here for a second. That's actually a good point for you independent bands that are out there. You don't need 15 tracks. I know your PR people may tell you that, or anybody that producers, if you're working with producers, maybe they'll tell you that stuff, but it's like if you've got a few songs that you're not sure about, save them, work on them, get them tighter, because it may be fluff and throwaway in the 11 through 15 section of a CD, or you give them time. Put out a 10-track CD. Now a lot of bands I'm starting to see, Nate, where they're more EP focused, and some of them are still doing singles, which gets to be a little bit annoying because it's like, are you ever going to put this together? Because it seems like that's all you do is release singles. To each his own. But I'm noticing some are putting out EPs, gathering a group of songs, 3 to 5, and then put those out and then call it an EP and then keep writing. But I'm hoping the days of fluff are behind us. Get it a tight 10 and then save those other tracks, work them out. And you may have gold going into your next release. But I digress. Nate, I'll turn it back to you.
Nope, it's good advice. Songs back in the day, or albums back in the day, were around 8 to 10 tracks. It wasn't until the CD or whatever that they started to expand that shit. Once in a while, you get a double album if somebody was feeling particularly inspired. But anyways.
Well, you had to really prove yourself to a record label to get a double album out. I mean, it's not, I think even Jimmy Page had to really show that Physical Graffiti was worth a double album.
Well, you can tell Max still really loves what he's doing.
Yes.
By how inspired this album sounds, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's not phoning it in.
Nope, he's not doing the cookie cutter. Doesn't have like a formula vibe to it. It's all just good, solid metal.
Agreed. Nate, for our final song, I'm going to turn it over to you. What do we got for our final track?
We are going to close out with Favela Dystopia, the Slayer homage song.
One that we both enjoyed. My favorite.
So hopefully you pick up on the Slayer homage.
Oh, yes. Yes, looking forward to putting that out in the world and seeing that. Now I'm looking forward to hearing it because I gotta see if I just kind of glazed over that, or do I need to smoke something?
Well, you picked up on it because you said it was a thrasher.
That's
so
true.
You're on the trail.
I just want to see if I could find that Slayer gold next time I listen to it.
Yeah. Look for it. It's there, especially in the drumming.
Well, that's one thing too. Definitely got some great people working on this album. Zion is no slouch. He takes after his uncle Igor.
Yep.
Well,
really
fabulous.
Good drums.
Well, I'm glad that we finally got around to getting through this one. And I'm glad that it's growing on me as far as, because I'm a fan of Max. I'm a fan of Soulfly and, of course, other projects that Max is involved with. So very nice that we can do that. I'm looking forward to that breakdown, worst to best, when we get around to that later this year. But you'll have to wait for that. But you don't have to wait for Favela Dystopia from Soulfly off of Chama. And until next time, my friends,
stay heavy.
Thank you for listening to Disciples of the Watch. This episode was produced by Gene Vogel and Nathan Matnich. All music is property of the artist or the publisher. Please buy music and support the art we all love. Editing on this episode was done by Gene Vogel. Check out our website, dotwpod.com, for show notes, links, and more information on the show, as well as connections to social media. Don't forget to subscribe to the show using your preferred podcast application, or use our FeedBurner RSS feed listed on our website. Plug it into your browser or whatever app you're using, and then you will get all of the goodness moving forward. And you can also download the show as MP3 files from dotwpod.com. If you'd like to support the show, please click on the support us link at our website. As well, we have Patreon, so you can do a monthly contribution if you so desire, or purchase some of our merch from our website. Thank you for listening, friends, and stay heavy.